Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
General Hospital spoilers reveal that Nina Reeves will catch a reproach and supposedly catch two controversial suckers in the act. Nina's about to witness a shocking sight, so let's talk about what's in store. Suckers know that Nina lately had a fierce sweepstakes with Portia Robinson at Brown Dog Bar, which led to Nina getting some stunning news. Portia let it slip that she was pregnant in her diatribe, so Nina was surely taken suddenly. On December 10th, Portia will feel fear rising up. There may be a situation where Portia gets overwhelmed and falls into Isaiah Gannon's arms for support. Of course, a make-as-usual session could follow, so that may be what Nina is about to substantiation. General Hospital spoilers say Nina will indeed catch commodity that gets her attention on December 11th. Nina may spot Portia and Isaiah in what they allowed was going to be a private moment. This could get the bus turning for Nina and lead to her consummation that Curtis may not be the only father seeker. That's a problem since Nina considers Curtis a friend and wouldn't want to see him get his expedients up for a baby that may not indeed be his. Portia may push Nina to keep her mouth shut, but is that commodity Nina will be willing to do? Nina may be tempted to tell Curtis about Portia's secret love with Isaiah and the possibility that she could be carrying his child. Once Nina figures out there's a maternity question, she may suppose Curtis needs to know ASAP. Curtis blew up Nina's relationship with Willow Kane when he betrayed her right before Willow's first marriage to Drew Kane, but Nina didn't hold that against him. Nina was going to tell Willow about her passionate hassles with Drew anyway, so Curtis simply beat her to it. Willow presumably would have had the same response anyhow, so Nina didn't let Curtis' hopeless move get in the way of their fellowship. Now Nina is on the right track with Willow again and feeling thankful to have her child back in her life. Nina knows the power of loving your sprat and wouldn't want Curtis to set himself up for disappointment if he's formerly loving a baby that might belong to Isaiah. General Hospital spoilers say Nina could force the verity out in the open, so stay tuned for updates on the maternity drama Portia may have to address. Port Charles awoke to a morning that seemed deceptively calm. The streets glimmered under a crisp winter sun, children's laughter echoed from schoolyards, and the smell of fresh coffee lingered in every corner cafe. Yet beneath this veneer of ordinary life, the city's undercurrents were roiling with secrets, schemes, and tensions that could erupt at any moment. At the heart of it all, Willow's quiet determination had begun to reshape the lives of everyone she touched, leaving destruction and opportunity in equal measure. Nina, ever strategic, had been plotting for months. Her big plan, as she referred to it in whispered conversations with allies, was a calculated attempt to seize leverage in a world where control and perception often meant everything. She knew Willow's rise, her ability to manipulate, her increasingly ruthless approach to protecting Wiley and asserting dominance over Amelia, and she was determined to navigate this treacherous terrain to her advantage. Every decision she made, every word she spoke, was carefully crafted to influence outcomes, sway loyalties, and turn chaos into opportunity. Meanwhile, Drew found himself caught in a whirlwind he had not anticipated. Once a man secure in his professional and personal life, he was now staring into the abyss, watching as Willow methodically dismantled everything he held dear. Wiley, the child he had loved and protected, was slipping further from his grasp, manipulated by forces he had underestimated. Amelia, once a partner in shared responsibility and mutual care, was increasingly swayed by Willow's calculated charm, her loyalty shifting in subtle but unmistakable ways. Drew's sense of control, painstakingly built over months of effort, was crumbling with alarming speed. The small church on the outskirts of town had been chosen for its intimacy, its quiet charm, and the symbolic weight it carried. Today's baptism was not merely a religious ceremony, it had become a stage for strategy, influence, and, for Willow, dominance. The stained glass windows threw prisms of color across polished wooden pews, sunlight illuminating the faces of the gathered families and friends. Willow moved through the crowd with a calm precision, offering smiles, gentle touches, and soft-spoken encouragement to those around her. Her words were soothing, reminders of faith, love, and resilience. Yet underneath her serene demeanor lay a steel core, a mind already calculating the next move in the complex game she was orchestrating. Nina, observing from the back pew, understood the duality perfectly. Willow's ability to mix warmth with intimidation, encouragement with threat, made her a formidable adversary. She spoke quietly to herself, reviewing her plan step by step. If she played her cards right, she could navigate this situation, protect those she cared about, and maybe even turn Willow's aggression to her advantage. But the risk was monumental. One misstep, one overlooked detail, and Drew could lose everything entirely, falling into despair as Willow tightened her grip. As the baptismal ceremony progressed, Drew's inner turmoil was palpable. Every splash of water, every prayer, every blessing whispered over Wiley was a stark reminder of what he was losing. He glanced at Willow, who held the child in her arms with a natural ease that seemed almost predatory in its precision. Her words of encouragement to the congregation were both comforting and strategic. She was building trust, weaving loyalty, and subtly asserting control. Drew felt powerless, an observer to events he could no longer influence. His thoughts returned to the past weeks, the confrontations, the moments of subtle sabotage, the quiet manipulations that Willow had orchestrated to isolate him and destabilize his relationships. Amelia's subtle shifts in attitude, her sudden deference to Willow, her unspoken doubts about Drew's judgment, all of it had been carefully engineered. Willow had constructed a reality in which Drew's influence was minimized, his authority questioned, and his hope of maintaining his family structure diminished. Every day he struggled to fight back, only to discover that Willow had already anticipated his response. Willow's genius lay in her ability to balance warmth with menace. She offered encouraging words not only to calm anxieties but to subtly remind others of her control. "Trust that everything will work out," she said to Amelia, her tone tender, eyes sparkling with sincerity. "Sometimes the path is difficult, but those who stay committed to love and family are rewarded." To the outside world, it sounded like a statement of comfort. To Drew, it rang like a taunt. Each word reinforced Willow's influence, while also issuing a quiet, unmistakable warning: no one would stand in her way. Angry threats, both overt and implied, began circulating in the community almost immediately. Those who doubted Willow's benevolence, those who questioned her methods, soon found themselves confronted by the reality of her determination. Messages appeared, confrontations arose, and whispers of retaliation spread through the city. Port Charles had long been a place where secrets were dangerous, but now, even the most secure alliances were trembling. Willow's reach extended into both the legal and social spheres, manipulating perception, consolidating power, and removing obstacles with ruthless efficiency. Nina, ever cautious but daring, began to implement her plan. She knew that Drew's emotional state made him vulnerable, and she leveraged it carefully. Every interaction, every public statement, every suggestion of hope was calculated to influence outcomes without directly challenging Willow. She spoke privately with key allies, gathering intelligence, confirming loyalties, and testing boundaries. Her goal was clear: protect Drew, preserve Wiley's well-being, and expose Willow's manipulations when the timing was right. But even Nina recognized the razor-thin line she was walking. A single misstep could result in disaster for all involved. As the day unfolded, Nina's plan intersected with the baptism. She observed Willow's behavior, her interactions with Drew, and her subtle power plays. Each gesture and word was noted, catalogued, and analyzed. Nina recognized patterns: the way Willow combined nurturing with intimidation, encouragement with threat, trust-building with manipulation. It was a lesson in strategy and psychology, a demonstration of how one person could reshape reality to their advantage. And Nina realized she would need every ounce of skill and ingenuity to counteract Willow without losing control herself. Port Charles awoke under the soft glow of a winter morning sun, its streets serene, the air crisp, and the city seemingly calm. Yet beneath this tranquility, storms brewed in the lives of a few, their fates teetering precariously on decisions made weeks and months before. Willow, as usual, moved through the city with quiet precision, each step deliberate, each glance strategic. Today was more than a simple morning, it was the day she would consolidate control over what she cherished most: Wiley and Amelia. Nina, ever observant, had been planning for months. Her big plan was both ambitious and dangerous, a careful maneuver designed to protect those she loved while simultaneously challenging Willow's growing dominance. She knew Willow's capabilities, her cunning, her manipulative brilliance, and her willingness to go to extremes, and she prepared to counteract them without tipping Willow off. Every word, every interaction, every public appearance was calculated to gain leverage without drawing unnecessary attention. Drew, however, was blindsided. A man who once held a steady hand over his family and career now felt the foundations beneath him crumble. Willow had methodically begun to isolate him, seeding doubt in Amelia's mind, subtly undermining his authority, and wrapping Wiley in her control. Drew's attempts to intervene were thwarted at every turn, his influence diminishing while Willow's grip tightened. The child he loved, the woman he trusted, and the life he fought to protect were slipping further from his reach with each passing hour. The church chosen for the day's baptism was quaint, a perfect balance of intimacy and dignity. Stained glass windows bathed the pews in vibrant colors, sunlight illuminating every face in a spectrum of hope and tension. Willow stood at the center, holding Wiley with a natural grace that seemed almost predatory to those who observed closely. Her voice was calm, warm, soothing as she offered encouraging words to those around her. She spoke of love, resilience, and the importance of faith, soft-spoken lessons that cloaked her manipulation in the guise of maternal tenderness. Nina, sitting quietly at the back, watched with sharp awareness. Every smile Willow offered, every gentle word to Amelia or Wiley, was meticulously orchestrated. Willow's warmth was a weapon, her reassurance a trap designed to consolidate loyalty and control. Nina knew she had to be careful. Any misstep could reveal her own hand too early and give Willow the opportunity to counteract her carefully laid plan. Drew, meanwhile, was consumed by a mixture of dread and disbelief. Every word, every blessing spoken over Wiley was a reminder of how powerless he had become. His attempts to assert influence had been systematically thwarted, his authority questioned and undermined. Amelia, caught between loyalty to Drew and the subtle sway of Willow's nurturing guidance, began to show cracks in her resolve. Each interaction seemed carefully designed to steer her closer to Willow's orbit. Willow's genius lay in her ability to blend comfort with control. She whispered encouraging words to Amelia about faith and family, but beneath each syllable was a calculated assertion of power. "Trust yourself," she said softly. "Trust your instincts. The right path is always revealed to those willing to listen." To the outside observer, it was pure compassion. To Drew, it was a challenge. Each word was a reminder that Willow held the power now, that she could shape perceptions and outcomes at will. Port Charles, always a city of whispers and rumors, began to hum with speculation. Angry threats and murmurs started to circulate almost immediately, directed at Willow, the authorities, and those associated with Drew. Yet Willow welcomed these warnings. They were proof of her influence, confirmation that her reach extended beyond immediate circles. Every challenge, every threat, became another opportunity to cement her control, to intimidate, and to neutralize those who might oppose her. Nina began to mobilize her own subtle countermeasures. She spoke quietly to key allies, gathering intelligence, testing loyalties, and exploring every avenue to restore balance. Each move was a careful dance, too aggressive, and she risked exposure, too passive, and Drew could lose everything. Nina knew the stakes were monumental, Willow's rise was relentless, and her control over Wiley and Amelia now seemed unshakable. As the ceremony concluded and guests began to leave, Drew confronted Willow privately, desperation in his voice. "You can't just take him from me," he said, eyes filled with both fear and determination. Willow's response was calm, measured, yet edged with unmistakable authority. "Drew, I'm not taking him from you. I'm protecting him, and you need to understand that sometimes protection requires actions that others might not agree with." Her tone was warm, almost tender, but Drew felt the underlying warning. Any attempt to challenge her control would come at a price. Amelia, witnessing the exchange, felt torn. Her loyalty wavered between the man she loved and the woman she respected and feared. Willow's words were reassuring, guiding, yet subtly binding, creating a sense of dependence and trust that was difficult to resist. Drew's frustration grew as he realized the depth of Willow's influence and the challenge of reclaiming control over his family and his future. Willow's strategy extended beyond verbal persuasion. Every interaction with Wiley was deliberate, a methodical process of building trust and attachment. The child responded to her warmth, laughter, and attention, forming bonds that reinforced Willow's control. Drew, observing from the sidelines, felt helpless as his attempts to nurture and connect were gradually eclipsed. Willow's mastery of subtle influence and emotional manipulation was unparalleled, and it left Drew questioning every decision, every moment of past confidence. Meanwhile, Nina continued to observe, taking mental notes, constructing contingencies, and waiting for the perfect opportunity to intervene. She understood the delicate balance between exposure and timing. One misstep could destroy Drew's chances entirely, one overreach could alert Willow and provoke a defensive, possibly dangerous response. Patience, cunning, and precision were her tools, and she would need all of them to counter Willow's carefully orchestrated moves. Port Charles itself seemed to respond to the shifting dynamics. Friends and neighbors whispered anxiously, questioning alliances, loyalty, and truth. Angry threats began to appear, covert warnings, ominous statements, and confrontations that tested loyalties. Willow navigated these tensions with remarkable composure, issuing subtle reminders of her authority and control while maintaining the appearance of compassion. Her influence extended into both social and legal spheres, ensuring that any opposition was softened, neutralized, or intimidated before it could act. Drew's frustration deepened, his sense of helplessness growing as he watched his world unravel. Amelia's allegiance was no longer assured, Wiley's loyalty was being redirected, and Nina's attempts to intervene were hampered by the precision of Willow's planning. Each passing hour magnified the stakes, each action became a strategic maneuver, and the lives of all involved hung in a delicate, perilous balance. Nina executed her plan with a combination of caution and boldness. She gathered allies, identified weaknesses in Willow's strategy, and began implementing subtle interventions. Private conversations, careful probing of Amelia's thoughts, and discreet inquiries into Willow's influence formed the backbone of her counterplan. Nina knew that any overt attempt to challenge Willow would likely backfire. The only path to success was strategic, patient, and meticulous. The interplay of encouragement and threat became a central theme. Nina's reassurances to Drew and Amelia were designed to bolster morale without alerting Willow, while Willow's words continued to wield both warmth and control. Each interaction became a chess match, every conversation a maneuver, and every gesture a potential pivot point in the ongoing struggle for dominance. As the days progressed, tensions escalated. The legal ramifications of Willow's manipulations began to manifest, with social workers, lawyers, and the community scrutinizing her every action. Angry threats became more tangible, confrontations more direct, and public opinion divided. Nina's plan required careful navigation of these external pressures, while Drew struggled to maintain composure under the increasing weight of his losses. The baptism, initially a symbol of innocence and new beginnings, became a reference point for moral debate, public perception, and emotional manipulation. Friends and community members interpreted it in conflicting ways, some viewing Willow as a nurturing force, others as a controlling and dangerous influence. Drew's sense of isolation grew, as even his closest allies struggled to counter Willow's pervasive strategy. In a dramatic turning point, Drew attempted a direct confrontation with Willow, appealing to her sense of reason and morality. "You don't have to do this," he pleaded, voice breaking. Willow's response was calm, almost tender, yet filled with quiet menace. "Drew, everything I've done has been for Wiley's safety. And sometimes, ensuring safety means making choices that others cannot understand." Her words were both comforting and chilling, a testament to her strategic brilliance and emotional control. Amelia, caught in the crossfire, felt her own loyalties tested. Her attachment to Drew clashed with her growing dependence on Willow's guidance and protection. Each conversation, each interaction, became a study in influence, persuasion, and emotional manipulation, highlighting Willow's dominance and Drew's vulnerability. As Port Charles settled into night, the repercussions of the day's events continued to ripple outward. Drew's losses, Willow's ascendancy, and Nina's cautious countermeasures set the stage for ongoing drama. Angry threats lingered in the shadows, friendships and alliances were tested, and the city's residents remained unsure whom to trust. Willow, triumphant yet vigilant, reflected on her successes. She had secured Wiley's loyalty, influenced Amelia, and outmaneuvered Drew at nearly every turn. Nina, undeterred, continued her strategic planning, waiting for the opportune moment to shift the balance. And Drew, though battered and disheartened, held on to the hope that perseverance, strategy, and courage could one day restore the life he had fought to protect. The baptism, once a simple ritual, had become a stage for manipulation, a symbol of both hope and control. Encouraging words soothed hearts, angry threats heightened tension, and the intricate web of alliances and deceptions guaranteed that Port Charles's drama was far from over. The story of Willow, Drew, Nina, Wiley, and Amelia was only beginning, promising countless twists, confrontations, and revelations in the days to come.